6 months after Robert paid off his son's mortgage, he started showing up with his own key, rearranging furniture to fix the flow, and telling his daughter-in-law which rooms she was and wasn't using correctly. Nobody had asked his opinion. Nobody had given him a key either. Nina and Marcus bought the house 2 years into their marriage, a stretch for their combined income, the kind of mortgage that made both of them nervous every time the market shifted. Robert, Marcus's father, a retired contractor with money nobody quite realized he had until he offered it, made the gesture at Christmas dinner in front of the entire family, paying off the remaining balance outright, presenting it as a gift, tears in his eyes, the whole room applauding. "I just want my son settled," he said. "No debt hanging over you two, that's all I ever wanted for him." Nina cried too that night. It felt genuinely like the most generous thing anyone had ever done for them. The shift was slow enough that Nina spent months telling herself she was imagining it. Robert started visiting more, unannounced, always with a reason, checking the gutters, looking at a strange sound in the water heater. Bringing tools, just in case, staying longer than the task required, wandering the house with the proprietary ease of someone inspecting an investment rather than visiting family. "This room would work better as a home office," he told Nina one afternoon, standing in the nursery she and Marcus had just started setting up, hands on his hips, surveying it like a job site. "You've got the light all wrong in here for a baby." "We like it the way it is," Nina said carefully. "I'm just saying, I know houses. I built half the ones on this street." He said it warmly, the way he said everything, which made it nearly impossible to push back without seeming ungrateful to a man who'd handed them a debt-free home. It got harder to ignore when Nina found out from Marcus, almost in passing, that Robert had a key. "When did that happen?" Nina asked. "I think I gave him one after the mortgage thing," Marcus said, genuinely unsure, the way people are unsure about things they never questioned in the moment. "Felt weird not to, honestly. He basically owns half this house at this point." That sentence sat wrong with Nina for days. He basically owns half this house. Robert had never said that directly, but somehow, 6 months into an unrequested gift that had quietly become the operating assumption in the family, Robert's money meant Robert's opinion carried more weight than either of theirs, in their own home, about their own life. The pattern accelerated from there, each incident small enough to argue away individually. Robert let himself in one Saturday morning, while Nina was still in pajamas, standing in the kitchen when she came downstairs, already making coffee in her own kitchen, commenting on grocery choices he found in the fridge. He mentioned, more than once, that Nina's design choices weren't quite right for resale value, a phrase that made Nina's stomach drop every time, resale value implying an opinion about a house she and Marcus had no intention of ever selling. Then came the day Nina found Robert in the nursery again, alone, measuring the walls with a tape measure she didn't recognize, a paint swatch card in his other hand. "What are you doing?" Nina asked, standing in the doorway, unable to keep the edge out of her voice this time. "Getting ahead of things," Robert said easily. "This gray you two picked isn't gender neutral enough if you end up wanting another one down the line. I was thinking something more versatile. We didn't ask you to repaint the nursery." "I'm not doing anything yet," Robert said, mild, reasonable, already turning the conversation into Nina overreacting to nothing at all. "Just thinking ahead. Somebody has to." Nina didn't argue further that day. She'd learned, over 18 months, that arguing with Robert in the moment never actually changed anything. He simply absorbed the pushback, agreed pleasantly, and continued exactly as before the following week, always framing his own behavior as generosity nobody was properly grateful for. She raised it with Marcus that night, carefully, aware of how it would sound. "Your dad has been in the nursery alone, measuring walls, talking about resale value on a house we're never selling. He has a key he uses whenever he wants, and I don't feel like this is our house anymore." Marcus's first instinct, the way it had been for 18 months, was to defend his father. "He paid off the mortgage, Nina. I think he just feels invested." "He's not invested," Nina said. "He's in control. There's a difference, and I need you to see it before this baby is born into a house where your father thinks he gets a vote." It took Marcus another 2 weeks, and one more incident, to fully see what Nina had been seeing for months. Robert showing up during Nina's baby shower, uninvited, standing in the backyard for 20 minutes giving unsolicited opinions to Nina's own mother about how the nursery should be laid out, loudly enough that half the guests heard it, before Marcus finally, quietly, walked his father to his car and asked him to leave. That conversation, held privately in the driveway, was the first time in Marcus's adult life he'd told his father no about anything involving money. "The mortgage payment doesn't buy you a say in how we live," Marcus told him. "I should have said this months ago. You gave us a gift. That's what it was supposed to be. It doesn't come with a key, and it doesn't come with a vote." Robert didn't take it well. He spent the following weeks alternating between wounded silence and pointed comments about ingratitude, about how hard he'd worked for that money, about how families used to actually appreciate sacrifice instead of shutting people out. Marcus held the boundary anyway. The locks changed that week, the spare key never replaced, visits now requiring advance notice like any other guest. The nursery repainted exactly the color Nina had originally chosen, with Robert's opinion never solicited again. Robert never apologized. He never fully understood, as far as Nina could tell, that paying off a debt hadn't purchased ownership of the life built on top of it. He softened slowly over the following year, showing up less, calling ahead, occasionally still commenting on something in the house before catching himself and stopping. He met his granddaughter for the first time through a locked front door he had to knock on like everyone else. Nina still thinks, sometimes, about how close they came to spending years quietly living in a house that felt like a debt owed rather than a home they'd built, grateful enough for the gift that neither of them had noticed, for the better part of a year, exactly what it had quietly started costing them instead.